what we're going to cover today about the canvassing is main two areas is across the chest, right? It's making sure you've got a clean chest across there, and also you've got enough length in your canvas underneath and it's laying really flat, yeah? And I'm going to show you how I do my dart as well to try to create a nice clean dart, okay? So over the years, I just want to give you a quick story about canvassing, why they used to call me Big Stitch Lee and all that good stuff. These were people in the trade, you know, they would know that. Basically, I do big stitches because my teacher that taught me, I have to give respect to him, because at the end of the day, I've been taught by a lot of people in the trade. I have to give, you know, respect to people that showed me stuff. But this particular guy, I always liked the way he sewed. He sewed with such finesse, and the way he sewed, it was just, I used to just watch him and be in awe of how he used to handle all these lightweight cloths all the time. And there's different tailors in the trade that I would say, you know, they specialise in specifically different areas. If you're a coat maker and you do coats, and you know, you're supposed to do all kinds of coats, right? Specialise in tail coats, morning coats, whatever coats, that's your job, specialise in coats. Same as a trouser maker, right? You specialise in all kinds of trousers. Okay, so for a jacket maker, when you're doing coats or whatever, it's more or less you have to be able to specialise in all types of areas. But you kind of, after a while, you get lumbered with certain types of jobs, basically. I don't know why it's by default, but you just end up either being better at certain areas and certain jackets than others, and you'll tend to get more of those types of jobs. So this particular tailor that taught me anyway, I would say he was the one that first took me on and showed me a lot of stuff. And I was really keen on his particular way of sewing, because he was really, I would say, delicate, and the way he sewed, it was just amazing to watch. But he was always particularly working on lightweight cloths. He was one of those guys, one of those tailors that always worked on difficult cloths. Anyway, I have to give respect to him. His name is Dennis Cooper, and this guy was top tailor anyway. He's retired now, but yeah, he took me on when I was in Geeves and Hawks, so I have to give a shout out to Dennis Cooper right now. Anyway, so Dennis Cooper, he originally done the big stitches, yeah, so that's where I got it from. And he was showing me that the way you do the big stitches is just because you need to put length in the canvas underneath, and you need to feel. He was more of a feel tailor, as in feel how the cloth moves on the garment, feel how to put enough fullness in. When I say do stuff by hand, it's not always, okay, do loads of stitches by hand. It's about how the cloth feels in your hand as well. And he was one of those tailors that he tended to feel the cloth and how it moved, to know where to put the right fullness in and all that kind of stuff. So he's the one that showed me originally how to canvas the jobs. And I was amazed. So originally, when I saw his canvassing, it was a lot of big stitch, and I was like, yeah, just a bit big. Well, you've been lazy or something, you know what I mean? But I knew he wasn't being lazy, because he was a real respected tailor. So I have to give respect, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have been able to get jobs in the industry because of his reputations. So it was great that, you know, I was privileged to learn from him and other great tailors as well, you know. So anyway, let's just crack on, yeah? Cool. So I've got some paper here, right? What I'm gonna do is basically draw a dart. I'll do it this way, how it would be on a jacket. All right, so say that's like dart there. This is like where the pocket would be, whatever. Okay. What I'm going to do is draw dart like so. Right, so you can see that. So this is what I'm going to do now. I'm just going to cut into it so you can see how I'll do it on a cloth. Okay, so cut, I would say leave like a quarter seam each side. So what I usually do is just cut into it, go to that halfway mark, yeah, and then still keeping it a quarter seam away, yeah, cut to about an inch away from that stop point there, yeah. I'm gonna move this bit out of the way, and then I'll do the same on this side as well. All right, just gonna go a quarter seam away and go all the way up to that halfway line, and then go again up to that quarter seam. So it's about an inch away. I don't know if I can show you on some darker fabric, because this is right, I'll show you on this bit. So you can see that there, yeah? Right, so what I then do is I basically always start my dart from the bottom, right? So I machine right on that line. Try to switch it around here like that. I machine right on this line, yeah? I always do it on a smaller stitch, probably about 2 setting on the machine, yeah? Really small stitch, because I don't want the dart to open up. So I'll do it on a really small stitch on that line, because usually you have this chalk marked. So you can baste your dart if you want to, yeah? I generally don't bother with basting my dart, but it's okay. If you're comfortable with not basting it, then don't baste it. But if you want to baste it, then baste it. So machine stitch there. But what I also do is cut a little bit of fabric on the bias, right? Just about that much, yeah? And I put that, before I'm gonna start machining it, I'll hold it in place underneath there, yeah? So once I stitch up there, right on that line, and I come right up to the tip bit there, so this is where you want to finish, yeah? And you've got that cloth right at the back. I'll put it on there, see it a bit better. So basically, you've got from the top bit of where you're ending, it's probably about a seam for that cloth, and then the bottom bit is covering where you've cut is there, and it's going just below that there, yeah? I'll do all the measurements on the edited video anyway. So what you want to do is when you machine up there, the reason why you start from the bottom, because you're machining up, and then I back stitch just there once and then go off, yeah? If you're not comfortable with back stitching, you think you might get a bit messy with it, because you don't want that bit to, you don't want to back stitch on the different part of the cloth and mess it up. So if you're not comfortable with that, just machine straight off, and then you can always tie a knot on the end of your cotton. Yeah, just tie a loop and make sure the knot is going right to the end, and then just cut it off, yeah? So anyway, once you've done that and you machined it, what will happen is once you flip it around, okay, the top bit should lay, I'll show you in the actual jacket anyway, the top bit should actually lay nice and clean, but then on the back, what you have to do, yeah, don't know if you can see this bit, but what you do, once that bit's like that anyway, yeah, on the back, I forgot this bit to show you, what I do is I cut right underneath that bit there, right into the seam, but I don't go over that stitch. It's literally just before the stitch line. You don't want to cut on the stitch, because that will weaken the stitch, yeah? Just a little nip, just in there, yeah? And then what that will do, you'd have to open up, you open it out then, yeah? I know it's a bit tricky showing you like this, but I'll show you in the cloth. You open it out then, and then that is open, and that just gives you a nice bit of cloth at the back, so any lump that you have there, or from the dart, it will just make it feel a bit cleaner, yeah? All right, you can, if you want, this is for people that don't mind using a bit of interfacing, fusing or whatever. I don't see anything wrong in using that, as long as you use the right stuff, because if you use something that's too heavy, it will always show the imprint of the interfusing on this side. So I tend to just use a little bit of cloth, but you can use a little bit interfacing if you want. Just a square bit, you put it on there and it will keep that bit nice and flush, but I tend to just use the cloth all the time anyway, but use what you want. Right, so another tip as well, when you're doing that dart, the secret to making sure it's nice and clean on this side, yeah, is making sure that you don't come too wide there and then suddenly go down. You have to do it gradually, okay? And when I'm sewing it as well, make sure you can see a little bit of the underside bit when you're sewing it, yeah, so that you know that you're sewing it as well, because sometimes you can sew it all the way out there and then look on the other side and it's not sewn. All right, failing that I know that can be a little bit tricky to do. If you're not comfortable with cutting it at all you need to do is, let me just bring this paper here. What you need to do is cut, yeah, I'll just cut a bit of this off. Cut an extra bit of cloth on the bias, yeah, and then I'll show you on this, actually, new piece of paper. So you've got your dart there at the top. I'll do it a bit extra big so you can see. So that's your dart, and basically you don't need to cut it at all. You just do that, put your bit of cloth at the back, yeah, and then machine it, and then you open it out basically, yeah. So the cloth bit goes to one side and the dart goes to one side, okay, and then you just open in the seam, and that will make it nice and clean. But then for me, I find it a bit bulky when you come to putting the pocket across as well, because you've got so many layers of fabric. So I personally like to cut it. But anyway, just thought I'd show that dart for someone that was asking. And also on the dart, we're covering the dart, this is the canvas, right? We're covering the dart on the canvas. How I do my dart on the canvas is similar way. I'll show you again. So all you need to do, got your dart there, yeah. All right, so this is that bit, okay. So what I'm doing is cutting in, okay. Cut that bit out. And then you're closing it like that. But what you want to do when you get on a machine is get a bit of material. I mean, there's different ways to do this. Some people like to do it with lining at the back. I use a bit of silicone. You know, there's no wrong way. It's just as long as it looks clean and you can't see the imprint of it on the outside when you're pressing it on the, when you've canvassed it and you don't see it on the outside of the cloth. Right, so you see that? So that's what I do in there. I literally machine it once up, all the way down, and I go around again twice, and then I'll just do a zigzag stitch to hold it all in place. And then when I flip it over, oh sorry, when I machine up and down like that, flip it over, cut it back first before you do the zigzag stitch. Otherwise, when you do the zigzag stitch first, without cutting this bit back, it's going to be harder to cut the cloth back on the other side, all right? And this is the side, you can do it, sorry, on this side, yeah? I'm just getting it mixed up there because I've done it before with the cloth on this side, yeah, and I find it's just another layer of cloth. So make sure you do that cloth bit on the underside and then you zigzag it on the top. All right, that's that out the way. So let's get back to doing some canvassing. So I'm going to cover canvassing techniques on doing leather jackets as well. So now it can be really hard to actually put canvas in leather because you can't obviously put any marks in the leather when you're basting it down the middle, or wherever you're going to base it. You just can't put any stitches in it at all, yeah? So what I'm going to do is show you how to, those of you that probably know already, those that you don't, but if you've got a really big guy when it comes to canvassing the jacket and putting darts in, I only put one dart in. Yeah, if it's a guy that's probably my size, like 38 chest, then yeah, don't need to bother putting any darts in. I used to put darts in when early stage of me canvassing. I used to put a dart in there, yeah, and especially if it's a really big guy, they would have a neck dart, yeah, and I would only put a neck dart in underneath on the canvas, not just the cloth, if it was an extra big guy. But if it's a small guy that's like, you know, it could be like 40 chest up to about 42 maybe, then I don't really put the neck dart in. You know, other tailors might disagree with me, but you just do what works for you. So on this one, I've just got one dart in there. So what I generally do when I'm canvassing, canvas the top half one way and this half that way, because I like it to, because that part I find it's rolling around the chest, and this part is rolling up over the shoulder, so to speak. So that's why I canvas it those different ways. So for me, so for me when I'm canvassing, the most important part is making sure, obviously you canvas it properly, but just to avoid like many years of unnecessary stitching. When you canvas, when you're pad stitching, sorry, I keep saying canvas. When you're pad stitching, you don't need to go all the way to the edge, yeah, because you're already doing the canvas bigger than the actual jacket, because you've got to baste it in and maneuver it around, right? So you want to leave a gap anyway. Just don't basically pad stitch all the way to the edge. I mean, if you're learning, then you might just do that just because you're practicing anyway. But I would leave a gap of like, you know, 3/4 of an inch, and then a shoulder, leave like an inch, because you've got inlay on there anyway. So you're not going to use all of this. And then around the front there, you're going to leave about 1/2 inch, because you might end up cutting this back anyway when you're doing your bridle and all that kind of stuff. So don't waste your time and do loads of pad stitching all the way to the end, unless your teacher obviously tells you you got to do that because they want you to practice. So anyway, back to quickly showing you how to press. So what I do, I put that behind there, my block. Every tailor should have a block, yeah, and you should pre-wash your canvas already. I mean, there's so many different types of canvas. There's looser weave ones, there's heavier weave ones, but particularly for lightweight ones, I always like to canvas with this tighter weave kind of canvas, because it kind of holds together the lighter weight fabric a lot better, rather than using a lighter weight canvas that is got a looser weave. It's too light to work against a lightweight cloth for me anyway, because it's just too floaty. You need some structure, so that's why I always use a more structured canvas. So anyone that wants to know where I get my canvas from anyway, right, this is, I'm not trying to, you know, sell sell off B&B, or they're from the lining company, right? Basically I use this company, and I use Kenton's as well. I use this company because they do a lot of trimmings, and they're online as well, so you can order online, so you can buy loads of different stuff. But I was just showing you this because of the canvas that I'm using here. It's this one, okay? But like I said, you know, I'm not saying this is like the best one in the world to use. They're good and convenient because they do a lot of different trimmings, and it's just easier sometimes when you just want to get from one company, save getting from another company and postage and all that, and, you know, charging you extra. So I just tend to get from one company mainly, and then I use other ones as well if they haven't got exactly what I need from that one. So anyway, go back to the canvassing. What I do, this one is a tightly woven one, so I don't really shrink this, to be honest. When I say really shrink it, what I mean is I steam it a lot. So I make it up, and the main thing is I want this back bit here to be nice and clean. So what I do, I steam. I'm not using my steam iron today, just in case you guys haven't got one. I wanted to show you the old school way with a dry iron. But what I'll do is just spray it. Can you spray? All right, just spray all of it. I'm not going to go through all shrinking it all of you today, because I kind of pre-shrunk it already, so we'll have to let you not sit and watch that. But mainly the chest area, I want to shrink that as well, because what you don't want is it being all bubbly between your stitches. Okay, so, and I tend to do bigger pad stitching as well, because I like my canvas chest to be soft as well. You know, I find the smaller you do your pad stitching, I think the canvas chest is a bit more structured, because obviously you got more stitches in there. But yeah, the main thing is making sure the back and everything is pressed. So I put this up here, and I'm angling. You can see where I'm angling it, and I'm literally trying to, let me move it down a bit. I'm trying to, this bit here, I'm pulling on this little bit here. I'm trying to keep this position, can get the words out, position straight from all the way up here, and I'm just pressing it there, yeah? And what I'm gonna start to do is easing it around like that, and then shrinking this away like that, yeah? That's what I do. And then what I do, turn it around, and then work on this side. I don't know if you can see that angle, all right? Move it down here, yeah? And then I just work it in there. Also, you can use a dobber. I like to use a dobber when I'm concentrating on certain areas as well. Like I want to shrink around this armhole bit here, because that's where I want to create the chest just above that dart. So what I do, I'll ease it over, and I'm manipulating the canvas a bit, and I'm shrinking that bit away in there, yeah? What I've just moved in there, and shrinking it away, okay? And then at the end bit, if I can move this around, this bit here, I want to make sure, you see my finger there, I'm pulling that, because I want that's going to go over the shoulder blade, so that's stretched. Now, if you want to, this is advised, you can just put a dart or a puff in there on the shoulder. A lot of tailors like to do that. I used to do that a lot myself. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's good if you can do that, because it shows that flexibility over the shoulder, and especially this part here as well, so you've got some movement, yeah? So most tailors, to be honest, they do that, but I think because I've tried that, and you know, I just stretch it. So what I do, once I've done that bit, once I've done this bit, what I do on the edge here, I just put my dobber on there, and then I just stretch it. That's good enough for me, yeah? Because because I like a nice structured shoulder. And where I put my hair cloth, which is this one, isn't it? Yeah, I put that a strip right across the shoulder, and then so I've got 2 layers. I've got one that goes across the whole body, and then another strip that goes right across the shoulder, because I like a nice structured, like firm, sharp shoulder line. And that's probably the main reason why I don't put the puff in there, because I find that you can even do the puffs in there and layer it so it's not so bulky, but I like everything to be smooth, clean, and yeah, I just don't like to mess about too much, to be honest. Anyway, that's that done. So actually, we look at the chest. There's not much chest in there because I haven't really been working it that much, but let me show you how to put a bit more in there. If you find that there's not enough, get it back on there, because I didn't do the inside neither. So yeah, you do the outside, or you can do the inside first and then the outside. Either way, I don't think it makes much difference, but I'm working that in like that and shrinking that away. So this is how you create more chest, yeah? All right, move that in like that, and I'm literally getting my finger at the top here, and once it's on, it's going across the dart there, I'm pulling it and easing it across this way, yeah? And then once I ease it across that way, I'm shrinking this bit in, yeah? So that's where you want to wet more. This is if you want to create a big chest without having to put that dart in, because I don't like to put things in unnecessarily unless it's really needed. Like I said, if it's a really big guy, then yeah, you can put a chest dart in there. You can put a nice angled one if you want, like a curve, that will create more chest as well. I used to do that, but then I think I used to over press, as in create too much chest on my jackets when I was younger. And what used to happen was that all the jackets used to come back with the same alteration, which was take a bit off the chest. So I ended up having to do alterations on all the jackets I used to put chests on, because it just wasn't needed, you know. So the only time I'll put, like I said, extra darts in if it's required, if it's a really big guy. Anyway, so this side I'll shrink it in like that, and then edge, smooth that out around here, and I'll stretch that bit there. All right, turn it around. And then I'm going to isolate that front bit, and I can still create more chest in there as well. See that, the circular motion that I'm using as well, just to help aid that chest in there, yeah, and then shrink that away. Push this down. So let's see how much chest we got in there now. That's a lot more now. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, that's some good chest there. Right, so now I've done that, I'm gonna go and do the front. So what I tend to do, I do the canvas and I lay that on my sleeve board. So the main thing about getting this nice and clean canvassing is to press it and keep it as smooth as you can, and lay it somewhere so that it's not going to get rigid or anything. So I've just pressed that canvas and it's nice and clean. There's no rigid turns in the weave. It's all just laying straight in one direction, okay? So now this is the front. Now this is a very lively, lightweight cloth, okay? So let me just show you the inside, if you can see it there. So this is the dart there, so you can see that what I've done, I've layered it as well, yeah? So I've cut one level and then I cut another level that's wider, yeah? Because everything is layers when you're doing tailoring. You always do it in layers so that it's not so bulky, yeah? So I've done that bit, and what I've also done, I've just put a little bit of sticky strip across there just to close that dart up. You can, if you want, to do lining and put lining behind there, like some tailors do, or you can put silesia. I just use that because you're going to put the pocket behind that anyway, so you don't need to do everything by hand. Right, so if you notice as well, my tailor tacks, I don't do loads of tacks. If you know that's like a more or less a straight run, yeah, because you're going to mark it with your ruler anyway, then all you need is a rough guide. It's only when you come around to the corners you'll need more tack. So that just saves you doing loads of tacks anyway. So now I'm laying this down flat. The main thing I'm focusing on, have a nice hot iron, is the front edge first, yeah? And I'm working myself out, yeah? So main thing is focus on the front edge, making sure it's all flat. It's better when you've got stripes, because then you can tell with the stripes whether they're actually going to buckle or if they're straight, so you've got a better guide. Okay, so I'm gonna press now, right? I'm using my spray gun, okay? I'm gonna spray it, and then I'm just gonna, you've got to spend quite a bit of time pressing it, because the main thing about this is having a nice flat front, yeah? So I'm gonna spend my time pressing it, working on the darts. When you're doing the dart, the top of the dart, I spread it with my fingers like that, and I get right on that point, because then that would separate any surplus cloth underneath and make sure it kind of gives it a good press on that point, yeah? And I give that a lot of work, and I leave it on there. Keep working that around here. Around the bottom bit, you need to press that all back as well. What I tend to do as well, I like to press my seams flat before I open them, especially on lightweights, because what you find is it gathers up a lot. Like when you machine it, both of the fabrics, because it's so lightweight, it gathers up a lot. I mean, that's to do with like tension in your machine as well, as long as they're not too tight. But also, sometimes you can't help it because the fabric's so light, you know. So what I tend to do is press it flat, so it lays flat first, and then when I'm going to open it, it actually makes it easier to open. So I press it flat, and then when I'm opening it, I'll probably use a dobber, wet the seam like this, yeah, wet in the back, just slightly, and then work over that bit. Okay, this cloth is really lightweight. It's probably about 8 ounces of cotton, so yeah, it's quite light. So I tend to get a lot of lightweight cloths, so I guess I'm that kind of tailor that deals with all the lightweight ones, which you know, you get used to it after a while, and it kind of makes you a better tailor for it, because then when you do get like a tweed, you get so happy you've got a heavier cloth to work on. You're like, oh, and it's like easy. So anyway, while I'm pressing that, I've got to press the top bit. So I come around here, so I press the front, I've pressed over the dart, and then when I'm doing over this bit here, I tend to, all right, wet that bit more, and then I'll just try and do it all in one like that. All right, let me see if I can multitask this time, because I remember last time I didn't get to look at any questions that people were trying to ask. So who's up and joining? All right, hello people, who's waving? Let's get wavy. What's going on? Thanks for joining. Right, so you see how I'm working across there now? It's a lot more flat. Okay, you should see some tailors just leave the iron in there, make a cup of tea and come back, you know. But yeah, that's taking liberties, because you don't want to burn your cloth as well. But you want to get to the point where it's hot enough that everything is just pressed really flat, because like I said, that is the secret of canvassing a really clean job, making sure it's pressed really good, because the more you can see what's going on when you're canvassing, the better the canvassing is going to be, yeah? So again, pressing everything really flat. Okay, right, I've done that. I mean, there's so much you can press it, because I've got to start canvassing it now anyway, and you know, this is as flat as I'm gonna get it, I reckon. So you see where all that fullness is going? To the waist, yeah? All right, that's all going to the waist, and everywhere else is flat. So that's what you're aiming for, okay? So now I'm getting the canvas. All right, here we go. So putting this on top of there, because I usually use my steam iron. I've used the water that I've had in this bottle for ages, and it's got quite a dirty water, so make sure you use clean water. Otherwise, when you spray it on there, it might give a mark. Hopefully this will come out because I will have to give it a little scrub. But anyway, just want to show you guys how to canvas. So you see how it's looking now. I want to be able to see that actually, yeah, I can see this being canvassed already because of how flat it's looking. And that's what you're looking at. You need to make life easier for yourself and make sure you've pressed it correctly, so when you lay it down, half the job's done already, yeah? All right, so now what I'm gonna do, so obviously I've matched it up to the dart underneath, right? Move it over a little bit, yeah? And all that extra padding that I was talking about, see, that's not even needed because I'm gonna cut that around anyway. So let's get started. So the first step is to start from the middle, yeah? And I'm going all the way down. Let me position this a bit better. Okay. So, like I said, as I was taught myself, the idea is to make sure the stitches are big enough that you've got enough leeway in between so you can check whether the cloth is tight or whether you've got too much fullness on the top. I'll show you what I mean. So I'm starting at the top here. Okay, so start off about, I don't know, 3 inches down from the top, right in the middle, okay? Start off there, put a knot in obviously, right? And what I'm gonna do, I'm using my hand to move the cloth down, okay? So first stitch, move, okay? And what I'm checking for is that it's nice and clean when I'm doing that across the top. There's a thin line between doing it too much, and this is where your touch and sensitivity of the cloth and the canvas comes into play, yeah? So you have to make sure when you come to the next one, when I get to this next one, I usually tack it because I'm gonna put my outbreast pocket through there, and once I put my outbreast pocket through, it will kind of cut off the cotton and I don't want that all to come out. So the next one I do, so what I'm aiming for is to go all the way down the middle there, okay? So I'm missing the pocket bit there. So let me show you. So even though it's not laying as flat, because this is a really lively cloth, I'm using my hand to put it where it needs to go. So the next stitch, coming across there, and tack, all right? Smooth it again, so you're constantly doing that with your hand. Instead of doing little stitches like that, I wanna make sure there's enough length in there. There's no, you know, there's no problem in doing as many little stitches as you want. You can do that. The main thing is, as long as it looks good afterwards, yeah? So if that's your technique, then that's fine. I'm just showing you the way I do it. Like my friend, good friend, John Davis says, there's 50 ways to make a jacket. This is just mine, yeah? Right, so I'm moving it down again like that. And I'll smooth it down again, and then I'll show you what to look for in between. So now I've done that. What you don't want to do is pull it too tight, yeah? How you check to see if there's enough fullness in between each stitch, yeah, and it's not tight, is smoothing like that, yeah? If it ends up that you have enough cloth like that at the end, I'll show you a bad stitch and then you'll see what I'm talking about. So I'm going to do this on purpose so you can understand what I'm talking about. So if I was to stitch it, if it was like that, that's exaggerating, yeah? Then what you have is a loads of cloth in between there. That's the reason why you have to move your hand so much, okay? And proper smooth it out, yeah? So let me just finish off this run and then I'll show you where I start the other one. So smooth it off like that again. And I'm smooth it off like that again. Smooth it off. Smooth it off. Now I have to remember, I'm not trying to say this is the only way you should canvas, this is the best way to canvas. No, I'm just trying to do some problem solving for people that don't really like to handle lightweight cloths because of, you know, the problems that come with it, and want to know how to kind of tackle dealing with the problems that they have with lightweight cloths with all the fullness and stuff like that, yeah? So if you're comfortable with doing small stitches, if you've been taught that way, then you should do it that way. There's nothing more annoying, I suppose, is when you're already being taught one way by somebody and they're teaching you, and then they come back and say, yeah, I've heard this way's better. That's annoying, because I remember I've taught before, and it's not nice when people say, oh yeah, I can do it this way, and someone's taught me that way. You don't want to do that. You want to do whatever your teacher tells you to do, and then after, if you qualified or whatever, then you can start practicing different ways, you know. So I'll just show you the next thing here. I'll pull it up the top, yeah, and I'll tug it at the bottom. This is so that I'm aligning my canvas back. Okay. At the bottom here, yeah, this is the edge of the canvas, okay. I tugged on it down, yeah, and at the top, I tugged it up a little, just a little bit. What that does, it resets the canvas, okay. So that when because what I've done is, when I've done this middle one, yeah, I'm pushing the cloth down to make sure it's clean on the top, and underneath, yeah, it's got small little ripples underneath, because obviously I'm pushing it down, so it's creating the fullness underneath, yeah. But what's happening is the canvas itself, underneath, it's shifting a little bit, yeah, because I'm pushing it on top and underneath is going up. So what I do is I reset the canvas by pulling at the neck point and at the bottom, yeah, so then it aligns back again, so when I'm ready to stitch, everything's in line. And that's the important part as well about when you're canvassing, because you don't want the canvassing to be twisted, because what could happen sometimes, so busy pushing the canvas down or canvassing it round like that, that this point here gets really twisted, and then you can't get it out, you know, because by then you might not realise until the jacket's finished, and then you've pad stitched it all and done everything that's needs to be done on jacket, and then it's too late by then. So this is just a little method to stop the canvassing from twisting, okay. So like I said, back again, reset that, and then I start from the top bit again. You probably can see the top bit, yeah, okay. So now I'm starting from the top bit. So this is how I move my hand, yeah. First bit, moving it down. Second bit, I'm moving away and I'm moving it down, yeah. So I start halfway between that neck bit and the stitch, yeah. I'm just pushing it over, especially that neck dart there. Pushing it over. Just making sure the stitches are quite loose, yeah, because when you do that, it kind of puts some length in the stitch. So just make sure the stitches are loose, just in case it's tight, and then you've got some leeway as well. All right, get to that point, making sure I'm moving it out. See that bit there? I'm shoving it across there as well. And then I'll push it down, yeah? Oh, time's come out. Pushing it down again. The main thing about when you canvas and you're doing big stitches like this, I mean, I've been quite lucky that obviously people know who I've previously might have been trained by, in terms of, knowing that, yeah, my teacher done big stitches like that, so I know that the jackets look good in the end anyway. But main thing is making it look good at the end, you know. So now I'm gonna do this one over here, yeah. So I'm gonna do stitch in the middle like that, and I come halfway across. So I've gone halfway in between that stitch. I started there and I'm padding halfway across this way, and I come halfway across from there to there, okay? And then what I'm going to do, this bit here, I'm moving across this way, yeah? So this stitch, I was kind of moving it across like that a little bit, yeah? Not too much, just so that you know it's clean. And then this one, I'm moving across here, okay? Always going in this area across the chest. So this stitch, I do this stitch small. This is the only one I do small, and the bridle one. So, because with this one, I like to enclose the chest area, because if I was to do these stitches big on there and around here, then all that fullness will escape across there. So I'm trying to seal it off by making sure the stitches are small, yeah? like I say, I'm just making sure it's laying across flat. All right, and come around the armhole here. Now when it comes to doing this bit around here and then going around there, you can see how much surplus cloth is there already. You can do, if you're not used to it, with the chest in there, you can put, I don't know whether you want to put a bit of chalk in it, depends how big the chest is, or you want to put a cotton, let me show you, a little cotton reel. You can put a little cotton reel under there as well, just to keep the chest up while you're going around. There's so many different things you can put under there, but let me leave that little cotton reel under there. That just keeps the chest up on there, so when you're going around you can maintain the chest and know that the actual fabric is in line with the cloth, the canvas underneath. Yeah, all right, so I'm going to stop when I get to that seam and double stitch back just to secure that stitch there, and this is when I need to start coming around here and then I'm going down. Okay, so I'm just going to do that next stitch, padding across here and padding across there like that. You can, if you want, pad across there and then straight across on the middle button, so when they're doing fittings they can align it and see from the shape of it exactly where it is. But I just put tacks anyway. Yeah, you can even do more tacks so they have more of an idea, but I feel like doing this to there and doing the other one the same, so I'm aiming towards the center anyway. I feel like doing this to there and doing the other side the same, that's enough to kind of get a balance anyway. But you can go straight across if you want to have it more obvious. So I've got to this dart. Once I get to the dart, yeah, I stop. Okay, just making sure between there it's flat. Like I say, I'm not pushing anything, just making sure it's flat by feeling it. Yeah, then I'm going to go straight down. Yeah, so what I'm doing is double tacking on that mark there, because I don't want this stitch to come out. Then I'm pushing it down, and the way I'm pushing this down, I'm pushing this that way. Okay, so each stitch, keep these stitches small as well, and then what I'm going to do is double stitch at this point, about an inch away from the actual cut, yeah, where you're going to put your pocket in. Because what I tend to do, I will put my pockets in after I've canvassed it. I used to do the other way around, but I find it easier. I can canvas the job easier without the pockets in it, especially on lightweights, because then you can move and just have the cloth laying flat exactly how you want it before you put the pockets in. Because if you put the pockets in first, what I found that it's a lot more harder to canvas it, because you've got that bolt pocket there and it's harder to maneuver it around. But you know, just do whatever you feel comfortable with. So once I've tacked it to there, I don't go around there and around there like that. I just keep it straight and just go straight over. Yeah, so I keep the main thing was making sure there's no fullness. This is laying flat across there. Okay, so I'm moving my hand like that. So as soon as I go, I'll do a big stitch going over the pocket now, and then I'll just do that and I clear the pocket. I'll do a tack there at a pocket and I'll carry it down. Yeah, even if your cotton runs out, you don't have to go all the way down on this, because this is just for the floating bit of canvas that is going to be underneath the pocket, and I'm going to tack that down anyway on the other side. So yeah, just go as far as you can go there, right, and then leave it like that. Okay, so that's that bit done. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to do this bit now. Yeah, this is another important bit. So I'm going to put my mark my neck point. Okay, do my collar stand at the neck point. It's 1.25 inches. Yeah, I'm just marking my break line now. I've marked that, my first button. Some people like to start their break line like, you know, 3/8 up from the roll line, because they don't want to, you know, when the lapel comes over, they don't want it to roll past the button, or they don't want it to roll right on the button, they want it to slightly up. Doesn't matter, whatever you want to do, whatever you feel comfortable with. This one's marked right to the button, so that's fine. So what I'm going to do, get my ruler and join up this mark here. And also, because of my neck dart, obviously the previous mark stitch is not going to line up because the neck dart's been put in. And this is what I'm saying, with this lightweight one, it's got a neck dart in it, but I haven't put it in the canvas underneath this because the guy's pretty small. Yeah, he's probably about 38 chest, and I don't put unnecessary darts in unless it's really needed. And like I said, unless it's a bigger guy, then I'll put that dart in, but I don't really bother from these smaller guys. Anyway, so I'm going to draw that line now anyway. done that, okay? So now I've got a guideline for where I want to do my second, well it's fourth stitch, sorry, to go around there. I'm starting this stitch here, about 2 inches above the buttonhole, okay? And it's the same motion that I'm going to baste this stitch with. So what I'm going to do is start, push it over. You see that little bit of fullness there? Push that over, just making sure I'm getting rid of that bit there, yeah? And then on a double tack, yeah, double tack over that bit there on the button, just to secure that stitch again. All right, now I want to move down and push my hand like that. See, sometimes I just use my fingers like that and I drag it across and I can see how much is there. All right. And then you tack it, double tack. Okay, checking that there's no cloth gathered up in between each stitch, yeah? Making sure it's nice and smooth, all right? That's what you're looking for, okay? So before I turn it around and do the break line, I'm gonna put a pin in the break line first anyway, yeah? Just so that I know how much to cut my canvas back on the other side, if I need to cut it back at all anyway. Yeah, so I'll put that on the break line, and while I'm here, I'll just cut the armhole as well, yeah? Okay. Always leave like, I don't know, good eighth on that bit there. I don't cut it clean off yet. I just like to leave it on there because sometimes there might be a little bit extra that you can push over and you need to fill that in with canvas that's there. All right, so I'll just cut that bit away there, and you can see the top bit there, see much is left over that's not padded, yeah, right. Anyway, so put these in the break line, flip it over, yeah, and then I can also look at my canvas as well and see how it's laying. Quite happy with that. It's looking good so far. So now what I need to do is mark where I've put those pins on the other side all the way through. I need to just mark with a chalk that line, okay? And now what I do, take the pins out, and then I'll cut that back, okay? Now I'm cutting that back about, I would say, a good eighth or a quarter, I don't know in millimeters, yeah? Watch that. Okay, and then once I've done that, like I said, everything's in layers, yeah? Flip it over and then cut back that hair cloth a quarter as well, yeah? We don't want anything to be bulky. Okay. All right, layers as well, yeah? It's nice and smooth. Good Albert taught me that trick. One of the good tailors in the trade. He taught me a lot of stuff as well, and he said it's all about layering and making sure you haven't got heavy bulks, and neatening up as you go along, pressing as you go along. You know, all these little things help keep you know, your jacket looking neat, pressing as you go. Right, so now I've cut that back, yeah? I'm gonna do another secure stitch going up this bridle line, okay? Just like this one, because I'm trying to conceal all the fullness or whatever's going on in there. I want to conceal that, okay? So this one is a little bit different in terms of what you're feeling for when you're basting it, yeah? So let me just string up right now. So what you're aiming for, yeah? I mean, you can, if you want, put the pad at this block at the back, yeah? And then move it. But I don't like to exaggerate doing this and have aided help from the block so much, but you can, for the sake of aiding yourself a little bit until you get used to how to handle it without using the block. You can just use the block for now. And what I'm doing is I'm moving this across the chest, it's this way, yeah, not diagonal, it's straight across. Okay, the same grain as the haircloth underneath, straight across. And what I'm doing there, I'm moving it across a little bit to create tension on the top here, yeah? And the reason why I do that, I'm creating tension across the top. So when the lapel is folded over, what happens is it pushes the cloth back a bit, yeah? And that's what sometimes creates that extra fullness across the chest, this way, yeah? And that's what we don't want. So to compensate for that, what I'm doing is putting a little bit of tension on the hair, across here, so that it avoids that, all right? So if I get started from the buttonhole, yeah, and I'm going all the way up, and then what I'm going to start to do is move my hand as I'm going up, like that, and then keep my hand there across the line, and then stitching, okay? Smooth, and then stitch, okay? Smooth, stitch. And then you can also check it as well, and what you should feel, you should be slightly springy a little bit, yeah? You should feel a little bit of a bounce in there, all right? And that's what you're looking for, but don't do it too much, because you could also have the opposite effect. If you clean across the chest too much, the canvas will buckle inside, and then it will show the imprint on the underneath. So you want to make sure there's a fine line between having enough tension and too much, yeah? You'll kind of get the gauge, you'll feel it. I feel the tension there, it's not too much, it's slightly. It's just enough to know the difference that the canvas underneath isn't actually touching the cloth, yeah? Right, so if I carry on, going all the way up. All the way through, obviously, to the canvas on the underside. And you see, with this dart here, I'm trying to be extra careful and clean that off as well. So the actual tension I'm putting it in it is actually going to clean the dart up a little bit more as well, yeah? I'll point it across, okay? That's one thing with these lightweight jobs, it's really hard to have a nice clean dart on the neck point. That's why I don't like to do them. But sometimes when you get a job and that's what it's got in there, you've got to do it, right? Anyway, what I do with this bit here, I'll pull it up, because I'm still trying to clear that dark bit there as well, yeah? You're still going to have a little bit of a bubble in there, but sometimes it's hard to avoid that unless you put a bit of interfacing on there if you want. But I can generally press that away anyway. So I just moved it up like that, and I just stitched it back to link up these ones, all right? So there you go, that bit's done, all right? And I'm feeling now, and that's feeling good. And I even put my finger up like that, just to release the stitches a little bit, and to see how it's laying. And it's laying okay, I'm happy with that, all right? So the next thing now, flip it over again. Okay, and now what I'm gonna do is to give it a light press inside, yeah? So you're gonna have a little bit of fullness in there, because I've done it a lot of moving, but the main thing is you want to make sure that it's not twisted, okay? So once I give it a light press, because I've got to obviously mold the two fabrics together, the cloth and the canvas, all that should be nice and clean, okay? I'm putting a block at the back there because I want to keep this lapel line nice and straight and hold it in. All right, so I've done that. And also this pressing it is releasing up all that tension I done. It's pressing it away a bit so it can lay nice and flat for the next stage, yeah? Like I say, always press as you go along. So now I've got this bridle. Right, so many different ways you can, or fabrics you can use for bridles, yeah? I personally like to use silicea. I used to use lining, and I used to use the lining of the customer's jacket so that you can actually see in the fitting what the colour of the lining is going to be and the finished garment. But I found it's too soft. And linen, I've used linen before. I've been shown how to do linen. I've tried so many different ways, and I find linen is a bit too stiff, even though it does give you a nice sharp edge when you press the lapel roll, always halfway. It always gives a nice sharp crease, and it's a nice sharp edge. So it's really sturdy, and that's not gonna, whenever you create, you're drawing in this hair to you know, create a bigger chest and holding the bridle, put linen on there, it will secure that as well. But for me, it's just too hard. I'm one of those tailors that I like soft jacket, you know. My canvas is done up quite high as well. The only structure I need, like I said, is in the shoulder line. I like a nice sharp shoulder, but the body of the canvas, I like it quite soft. It's got a bit more of an in-between. It's still kind of strong. It's not as light as lining. It's not as heavy as linen. It's an in-between for me. And if you cut it on the straight, then that's not moving once you draw it in. So I'll just use this. So what you're gonna do, I measure 1/2 inch from the edge of the met, yeah? And just draw a chalk mark, so you've got a gauge of where to put the edge of your silesia, yeah? Right, so put a knot, okay? You see where the neck point is? Yeah, lay it down and just start basting. I will mark where you need to do and draw it in. So okay, this is where your lapel's starting, and this is where the buttonhole is, where you're finishing, right? So basically, I want to become, I'm doing this by eye, but then I'll measure. I'll give you all the measurements on the edited cut, but this is where, yeah, it's about around here, about around here, about around here. Every lapel is different depending on the length of it, but you just got to kind of gauge it, because what I'm looking for is around the armhole there, the chest dart there. I'm looking for in the center here. That's why I want it drawn in, okay? So I'll balance it out between where the top is and where the bottom is, and you just look at it and you can just gauge it. So it's around this area that I want to draw in, and the amount that you want to draw in is about 3/8, you know. On lightweight cloth, obviously you can't draw as much, but I'm still gonna see if I can get about 3/8. So once I've marked there where I want to actually conceal that area, yeah, I'm gonna do another mark of how much I want to basically draw it in, okay? So I want to put it about, yeah, about 3/8. So I'm gonna give it a go, but I know it'll create problems on the other side because it's so light. You can't shrink all that in, yeah, and it will show on the outside there. So I'm gonna try and put as much as I can in there. So anyway, let's get going. Started there. So what I do my stitches up to that line. Once I get to that line, just before the line, I should say, I start to pull it a little bit, and I'm gradually gonna ease all that much, yeah, into this area. So I don't want to do it all in one go because it will just show up all in one area, but I'll start a little bit. And then you double tack as well, yeah? Draw it in again a little bit and double tack again to secure it, okay? Do it again, pull it a little bit, yeah? Yeah, there's no way I'm getting that much in there, because I can see already. And because this is a high buttoning, this is like 3-button lapel, you're gonna get even less in there, yeah? So just get as much as you can in there. Sometimes I don't, to be honest, I don't really go by measurements. I just get as much as I can in there, and then whatever I've done on this side, I make sure I do it the same on the other side, yeah? And you just carry on, and then I'll stop about 1 inch before the button, all right? And I'll cut it off. All right? So now I'm going to press away all of that I eased in there. So because I want to focus on that bit, I'll wet it there, my dobber, and then I shrink it away. You do it gradually, yeah? Sometimes what I do either side of it, and I work my way in and then come on the top like that. Just do it gradually, because sometimes it's a bit hard when you just try to press it all the way at once, and then you look on the back and there's like a pleat underneath. So sometimes you've got to do it gradually. Got to take your time when you're doing these lightweight jobs. All right, press that away, and then what I do is flip this over, and that stitch that I did on this side, because it's going through the canvas, yeah, I can see it here, yeah, and what I do, I flip this over and mark. I'm tracing through where that mark is, basically is there, okay, and then I draw my line, and I know that's where the lapel bridle edge is, okay, and then I'm going to cut off about 3/4. Well, leave about 3/4 on, yeah, and then I always get a little bit of silicea like this, yeah, as well, and I put this underneath the lapel, okay, and I leave this up. I don't do it all the way down to the point because I just like it nice and thin there, but then heavier and really more bulky on the actual lapel, the bigger part of the lapel, yeah, because on these lightweight jobs the lapel is just going to float around too much. You just need it to have a bit of body. Right, so I've done that, and I've just slipped it in there, and just to save me time, I don't need to baste this in as well. I do that all together when I'm doing my stitch, when I'm stitching this down, yeah. So I'm going through everything on this one, going all the way through, stitching it down all the way through. Obviously on a leather one you can't do it like this because you can't stitch through, but you have to use what's it called, you can use lining. What I do, I use lining, but instead of basting it down when I'm doing leather, I just make sure, I'll show you when I'm doing it, but I put a pin at the back, and then I just have to hold it when I'm padding it, and I use a leather needle to cut through the leather when I'm padding it, because otherwise it won't pad stitch. Right, so that's looking all right actually, if I do say so myself. Right, you can see it on this side. I'll move it back a bit so you can see the camera. Right, so that's the chest in there. Obviously that'll be filled up, so you can see how it's a lot cleaner now, yeah. And that's how basically you baste a lightweight job. So all right, let's do the leather now, right? Okay, let's put this away. So with the leather, I haven't actually got like massive pieces of leather, to be honest. I've just got little strips. So I've got suede bit, and then I've got an actual leather bit, yeah. So the reason why you can't sew, well, you know, you can't obviously sew on leather because it just makes a mark, yeah, and then you can't get that mark out, yeah, and it's hard to actually sew on leather as well, yeah, when you just go through properly, unless you unless you use a leather needle. So the way I canvas, yeah, when you're canvassing on leather, you don't always necessarily have to canvas all the way through the body, all the way down. Let me get this. You don't have to like canvas all the way through the jacket front, yeah. You can just canvas, we'll move back. You can just canvas around the chest bit there, put a chest canvas in there and leave the rest plain, because it's quite a good weight anyway, yeah. But I actually did one and fully canvas just to see how it would look anyway, and yeah, it did give it a bit more structure, and I think it was okay. But how I did it was, let me show you. What you're going to need is some weights. At the time when I did my first one, I didn't have any weights, so I just had to use my hands. But what you find is I think from all the practice that I got from using my hands anyway, rather than basting, it kind of gave me a head start to be able to canvas it without basting it, because I was already used to using my hands anyway. So when you lay the leather on your canvas, yeah, and say like, obviously you've got extra bit of canvas there hanging out because you're just basting it in like you would do this, yeah. What you do, yeah, is you lay it all flat first, yeah. So say like this leather, basically I'm mimicking the whole jacket, right? So what you do, you lay it out flat, yeah, your canvas is underneath, right? And what you want to try and do, yeah, is lay everything as flat as you can, okay? You still put your chest in your canvas, yeah. What you do, lay the canvas out just as I pressed this, and I laid it on top of the canvas before I base stitched it. Yeah, you lay it down flat. Then what I do, I put a pin. It's really hard to put a pin in leather, but put a pin on the bridle line. Yeah, brake line. Sorry, put a pin there. 2 pins either side. Okay, and then what you want to do, you just want to cut the canvas net, and you want to put like a couple of nips in there, so you know that that's it, laying flat. And then what I do, I get the canvas. So say this is the leather. Let me move this over, because I'm only dealing with the top bit first. Yeah, once I know that's laying flat, yeah, I get the canvas, and then I get, if can you see that, I get, it's only one layer of the canvas. Yeah, it's this one here. Yeah, and I edge stitch that to the actual leather. Yeah, and once you edge stitch just the armhole, about, I would say, an inch away from the shoulder, just because I don't have this inlay on there when I'm doing the leather, because there's no point in having an inlay because you can't let out the leather once you've sewn it because it leaves a mark. So I cut that all net. Yeah, so once you've cut the canvas net and then you cut the leather net, when you stitch just one layer of the canvas to the leather, yeah, the rest of it will be loose, because then you can still sew your sleeve in around the armhole. All right, so that's what holds in that chest bit. Right, so when you've secured that chest bit there, you keep your pins in there. Yeah, when you've done that, you need to deal with the rest of the canvassing now. And how you do that is, once you get it all flat, let me just move this out of the way. I've got one of these. Yeah, you can put a bit of cloth on there, but I didn't use these before. You know, it's even better if you've got like little weights as well that you can put on here in each stage. But generally, the process of canvassing it is you hold it there, yeah, and you just move it. This bit is held in already anyway, so it's more or less from this bit here. Just move with the leather with your hand, okay? And as you're going across, you ease your weight like that, yeah? Until you get it right to the front here, okay? And you know that's laying flat. Then you get another weight, yeah? And you move your hand on the leather, making sure it's going out and it's smooth underneath. You put your weight on there again, and you're smoothing it. So this is acting, this bit as you're moving it on, it's almost like you're basting it, but you're not, right? You keep moving it out, moving it out, moving it out, moving it out, and then that's flat, okay? Once you've got your weights on your fabric, like I say, if you haven't got these 2 long weights, these are what I use for pattern cutting as well, yeah? If you haven't got these, then you could always just get small weights or whatever you have, just put it at different points of the jacket, just making sure you've got it protected underneath, because you don't want to mark your leather. Once you've got that like that and you know everything's fine, what you're going to do then, let me just move the camera down, yeah, because your front edge will be cut already. Yeah, so like I say, you don't leave inlay on leather because there's no point. So once your front edge is cut net, your canvas is hanging out, then what I do, yeah, once I know that's all clean, I cut my canvas the same as the front edge of the leather, yeah? So then once you do that and it's cut flush, yeah, then what I do, I use these clips, okay? Put these clips on the edge, clip in the canvas and the leather, right? And you go all the way at the front edge to there, okay? Hope you guys are still with me on that one. And then what I do, I flip it over, yeah? And then what I do, I take it off, and then cut it back, yeah? You don't really need too many clips in there, to be honest, but you cut it back, because what I did when I first did it, I didn't even put clips in it because I didn't have clips at the time. I just cut it back because I knew that it was flush and level. I put little nips in there and I knew it was flush and level. I just cut it back the same as you would do in a bespoke jacket, about 1/2 inch, yeah, from the edge. And then you put edge tape, yeah, sticky edge tape. You put that on there all the way around, and then that will keep it in flush, okay? And then that's generally how you canvas leather, yeah? The same thing, only thing with the leather, I tend to do my my pockets first, because I can't do, yeah, it's a bit more trickier when you try to canvas it first and then do the pockets afterwards, because I find that obviously when you're doing your jets, you've got to glue it and all. It's a different process to when you're canvassing a jacket, but it probably can be done. But I've done a few now, and I'm trying to get into a kind of a system of how to do it, and I find that doing the pocket first only on the leather, it works out a bit better for me, because then what I do, I flip it back anyway, and then I cut back the canvas, and then I put the canvas underneath the pocket bag, and then what I do, I tack back the pocket bag. This is a normal jacket here. So what I do, when I flip this back now, that's the pocket, and I put it in there, I put a little bit of ruler up in underneath the canvas, and I tack this down. And what I used to do, I even give it a little bit of a tug when I do that, when I'm tacking it across, because that way it will still create more fullness with the canvas across there if you pull it there, and it will make it even tighter across this point here, so you don't have no draping. Yeah, especially on a lightweight. So that's that.